This betrayal may look like bad luck, but it's not what you think. Because the real reason you keep getting fooled is a psychological blind spot Machiavelli exposed 500 years ago. You think you're smart. You think you can tell when someone's lying, but somehow it happens again. A friend you trusted uses you. A partner breaks promises. A coworker smiles to your face and stabs your back. You start to wonder, am I too nice, too trusting, or just unlucky? Niccolò Machiavelli would say, none of that matters, because the real danger is not in others, it's in you. He once wrote, men are so simple and so much inclined to obey immediate needs that a deceiver will never lack victims. What he meant is this: people are easy to trick not because they're stupid, but because they want to believe. They want things to feel good, even if they're not true. And that's exactly why manipulation works. You believe someone cares because they say the right words. You trust someone's intentions because they look sincere. But Machiavelli would warn you, people lie. They wear masks. And worse, and you help them do it. Not consciously, but emotionally, because deep down, you don't want to face the pain of being wrong about someone. You don't want to admit that someone close to you might not care at all. So you turn away from the red flags, you call it hope. But Machiavelli would call it weakness. This doesn't mean you're a bad person. In fact, it often means the opposite. It means you have a soft spot, maybe even a wound, that makes you crave connection. You want to believe the best in people because the truth is too cold. You grew up thinking that love meant being understanding, that kindness meant giving people second chances. That trust was something you should always offer, especially to those you care about. But here's the trap. Manipulators know that. They count on it. They don't need to be smarter than you. They just need to play into your desire to believe. And they usually do it so well you don't even notice it's happening until it's too late. This is what Machiavelli meant by a simple man. Not someone dumb, but someone predictable. Someone who believes what they want to hear. Someone who sees the world not as it is, but as they wish it was. And that's where the danger lives. Because when you're too focused on feeling safe, you stop seeing clearly. You hand over your power, not because someone stole it, but because you gave it away without even knowing it. So the question is not, why do people lie to me? The real question is, why do I need to believe them? That's the wound. That's the blind spot. And until you face it, you'll keep falling. For the same mask, just with different faces. You're not falling for lies because you're dumb. You're falling because something deep inside you wants the lie to be true. Machiavelli understood this better than most. He didn't just study politics. He studied people. And what he saw over and over again was this: humans have an emotional weakness that makes them predictable. They need to feel safe. They need to feel wanted. And they need to believe they matter. That need is powerful. And when it goes unmet for too long, it creates a hole inside you. A silent, invisible wound. Maybe it started in childhood. Maybe it came from growing up around people who only gave you love when you behaved a certain way, or who made you feel small, or ignored your pain. Slowly, you started to believe something dangerous, that love must be earned, and that being liked is safer than being real. That's the beginning of the pattern. You learn to ignore your gut just to keep someone close. You tell yourself they didn't mean it, or they'll change even when the signs are clear. You're not stupid. You just want it to work. You want the story in your head, the one where they're a good person, where this time, it's different, to be true. That desire blinds you. Machiavelli would say that this desire is the perfect opening for manipulators, because people who know how to pretend, who know how to say the right words, show a little kindness, or act broken just enough to seem human, can slip right past your defenses. They don't need power. They just need you to doubt yourself. Once that happens, they win. Here's the truth. Manipulators don't pick you by accident. They pick people who are kind, open, trusting, but most of all, people who are still carrying an old wound that makes them afraid to be alone, or afraid to be wrong. That fear is like a signal, and the wrong people know how to read it. Until you see that, you'll keep thinking, why does this keep happening to me? But the answer isn't out there. It's inside the need you've been ignoring. You've been here before. Different person, same feeling. At first, everything seems warm, exciting, maybe even safe. But slowly something shifts. Their words stop matching their actions. They pull away. They make you question your worth. And just like that, you're back in the same emotional trap. It's easy to think you're just unlucky or that you keep attracting the wrong people, but Machiavelli would say otherwise. He believed people are drawn to familiar patterns, even if those patterns hurt them. Not because they want pain, but because pain is what they know. If your mind grew up around unpredictability, like love that came and went, affection that had to be earned, or silence when you needed connection, then that becomes your emotional normal. So now as an adult, you don't consciously choose chaos, but you recognize it. It feels familiar, and that familiarity is powerful. It's what makes you stay. This is why someone who is emotionally cold or distant can hold your attention longer than someone who is steady and kind. The chaos triggers your wound. The uncertainty makes you chase, and the chase feels like love, but it's not. It's survival. Machiavelli wrote that people will always be easier to control when they believe in appearances, not truth, just appearances. So when someone shows just enough warmth, just enough hope, just enough regret to keep your story alive, you stay. You hold on, not because they've changed, but because the illusion has. And that illusion is strong. You're not falling in love with a person. You're falling in love with potential, with a fantasy that says, if I can just get them to care, I'll finally be enough. But here's what Machiavelli knew, and what most people never realize. Manipulators never break the pattern, because they are the pattern. They don't give you what you want. They give you just enough to make you keep asking for it. And that's the game. One that you only stop playing when you finally see it for what it is. You know something's wrong. You feel it in your chest, in your gut, in the way your energy drops after being around them. But instead of leaving, you stay, and you tell yourself a story to make it okay. He's just scared of love. She's been through a lot. They don't mean to hurt me. These aren't facts, these are emotional bandages. And you use them to cover a truth you're not ready to face. This person doesn't show up for you. They don't value you. And maybe they never did. Machiavelli would call this autoengaño, self-deception. Not because you're weak, but because your mind is protecting you from something worse. The pain of seeing reality. The pain of admitting that you've been giving everything to someone who gives you almost nothing back. That hurts. And to avoid that hurt, you turn the other way. You make excuses. You build meaning around their behavior to soften the truth. But this is the trap. Because every time you justify disrespect, you teach your mind that this is acceptable. And every time you ignore the truth, the lie becomes stronger. It doesn't just cover the other person, it starts to cover you. You start to believe maybe you're the problem. Maybe you're asking for too much. Maybe you just need to wait a little longer, but Machiavelli would stop you there. He warned that those in power rarely change, unless it benefits them. And when someone keeps hurting you but never takes responsibility, they're not confused, they're comfortable, and you're making it easy for them to stay that way. Here's the hardest truth. The more you defend someone who keeps letting you down, the more you abandon yourself. Not because you want to, but because somewhere deep inside, you're still trying to prove that you're worth choosing. But the longer you stay, the more you bleed, and no one is coming to stop it. Not them, not time, not hope. Only you can do that, by seeing clearly, even when it hurts. This pain doesn't just happen once. It repeats, over and over. Different faces, different situations, but the same story. And after a while, you start to wonder if something is wrong with you. The truth? This is not random. It's a cycle. And like all cycles, it has a root, a beginning you haven't fully looked at. Machiavelli believed that what we fail to face in ourselves becomes the force that controls us. He said people will unknowingly repeat the same mistakes, not because they enjoy suffering, but because they haven't learned to recognize the trap. And when it comes to love and trust, that trap often begins with a wound. Maybe it was a parent who made you feel invisible. Maybe it was growing up feeling like love had to be earned. Maybe you had to act perfect just to get attention. And now, without realizing it, you're still trying to win love the same way, by proving yourself to people who never deserved your effort in the first place. This is the real reason the cycle continues. You're not addicted to pain. You're addicted to hope. Hope that this time it'll be different. Hope that this person will finally see your worth. Hope that maybe, just maybe, love will heal what hurt you in the past. But Machiavelli would warn you, hope without awareness is dangerous. It blinds you, it keeps you stuck. And worst of all, it puts your healing in someone else's hands. You're not broken, but you are repeating something. Something that started before you even had the words to describe it. And until you face that early pain, until you give yourself the love you keep trying to earn, the cycle will continue. Because the wound chooses for you. It tells you who to chase. It tells you what feels like love. And it confuses comfort with chaos. But once you see the pattern, once you name it, you begin to break it. That's the moment the cycle starts to lose its power. That's the moment you start to take it back. The moment everything changes isn't when they hurt you. It's when you finally stop lying to yourself. That's when the shift begins. You stop asking, why do they treat me like this? And start asking, why did I allow it for so long? That question hurts, but it also sets you free. Machiavelli never told people to be heartless, he told them to be awake. He believed that the world is full of masks and that if you don't learn to see behind them, you'll always be controlled by those who wear them well. Becoming wise doesn't mean becoming cold. It means becoming clear. You stop falling for nice words and start watching patterns. You stop being impressed by charm and start asking better questions. Not, how do they make me feel? But, what do they want from me? Not, do they seem kind? But, are their actions consistent? This is what it means to reclaim your power. You stop chasing the people who confuse you and you start choosing the people who respect you. You stop trying to earn love and start giving it to yourself first. That's not bitterness, that's intelligence. Because the truth is, not everyone deserves access to you. Not everyone should get your softness. Not everyone is meant to stay. And when you finally see that, you stop begging to be seen. You stop explaining yourself to people who aren't listening. This is where Machiavelli's wisdom becomes yours. The world is full of deception, but once you understand your own blind spots, you can't be fooled the same way again. You move differently. You think sharper. You trust slower. Not because you're afraid, but because you've learned. And that learning, that's your freedom. Because now, you're not just reacting, you're choosing. And no manipulator can win against someone who truly sees. Your innocence isn't your flaw. Your blindness is. Machiavelli never hated human nature. He simply revealed it. He showed us that if we don't understand our own patterns and our own wounds, someone else will use them against us. And they won't feel guilty about it. You don't need to stop loving. You need to stop loving blindly. You need to stop calling pain loyalty. You need to stop calling manipulation a rough past. Once you wake up, you realize something powerful. The people who fooled you were never stronger than you. They just knew how to speak to your unhealed parts. They didn't win because they were clever. They won because you weren't ready to. See? Now you are. The next time someone's words sound perfect, you'll watch what they do. The next time someone disappears and comes back like nothing happened, you'll remember what it cost you last time. And when someone finally shows up without games, without confusion, without masks, you'll recognize it not because it's exciting, but because it's peaceful. This is what it means to protect your heart without closing it. To stay open, but not empty. To be kind, but not naive. To finally stop chasing love and start choosing it from a place of self-respect, not desperation. So no, this pain wasn't bad luck. It was a lesson. And now that you've seen the truth, you won't be fooled again. If this opened your eyes, you're just getting started. The next video will show you how to see through anyone's mask, using Machiavelli's most powerful psychological strategies. Click now and choose awareness over illusion.